Nobody expected the United States to become one of the most dangerous teams at this World Cup.
Balogun has a step on Shirkani. Balogun to the byline. Balogun into the middle. Dead! It's the United States once again on the board early.
You have to be impressed by what the United States have done.
Yet, after dismantling Paraguay and completely controlling Australia, something has changed.
I don't think any of us sitting in this panel or anybody that follows this team closely would have expected not only that they won both matches, but that they won both matches in the manner in which they did.
This doesn't look like the same US national team we've watched for years. They press harder, attack faster, defend smarter, and most importantly, they look like a team with a real identity.
They're willing to press, they're willing to counter-press, there's identity, there's a personality to this group, there's maturity to this group. You're seeing it displayed in the performance.
In this video, we're breaking down exactly how Mauricio Pochettino transformed the United States from a talented but inconsistent squad into a genuine World Cup monster. And stay until the end, because one hidden tactical change explains why this team suddenly looks unstoppable. To understand what's happening right now, you have to go back to what was happening before. On paper, this roster always looked dangerous. Christian Pulisic at AC Milan, Weston McKennie at Juventus, Tyler Adams at Bournemouth, Sergino Dest, Chris Richards. The names were impressive. The actual football, not so much.
You may be saying, Berhalter didn't have these players in 2022. You're right. You're right. But he had all these players in 2024 when he got grouped at home in the Copa America in a group with Panama, Bolivia without the altitude, and Uruguay that's not doing well themselves. So again, better coach, better results.
Previous versions of this team had a habit of recycling possession horizontally without ever threatening to break a line. The ball would go sideways, then back, then sideways again, and by the time any vertical option appeared, the defense had already reset, and the moment was gone. It wasn't slow because the players were slow. It was slow because there were no clear instructions about when to go forward and when to be patient. The two things got mixed up constantly, and the result was a team that looked disorganized in both directions. Defensively, the problems were just as bad. Soft goals from transitions, leads that disappeared, moments where one mistake turned into three, because nobody knew exactly who was responsible for covering which space. The 2022 World Cup in Qatar showed flashes of what this group could become, but it also showed the ceiling when there's no real tactical identity holding everything together. And that was the real question going into 2026.
If I told you they would be 2-0, and I told you 6 months ago they'd play crappy, they would be awful for 2 games, but they're 2-0, you would have taken it.
Yeah.
You would have taken 6 points.
Yeah.
Not whether Pulisic was good enough, not whether Adams could control a midfield. The question was whether anyone could put a structure around these players that actually let them show what they were capable of. Were they as good as advertised, or had the hype outrun the reality? Then Paraguay happened, and suddenly everything looked different. The Paraguay game answered the first question immediately.
I cannot believe what my eyes have just seen. Wow. The most complete performance under Mauricio Pochettino came at the World Cup. The first time we ever see the starting 11, and it was a complete dominance.
From the opening minutes, this wasn't the possession without purpose version of the USMNT that fans had watched for years. Every pass had somewhere to go. The pressing was coordinated, triggers were set, players moved in unison, and Paraguay couldn't find a way to play out from the back without someone closing them down before they could think.
They couldn't breathe. They couldn't sniff the ball. That was one of the great U.S. performances I've ever seen in my lifetime.
The midfield trio of Tyler Adams, Malik Tillman, and McKennie moved as a connected unit, rather than 3 individuals who happened to be standing near each other. The 4-1 scoreline told you something had genuinely changed.
This is the best offense the U.S. men's national team has ever had in the history of the program. And I'm not exaggerating, and that's why this was the first team to score 4 goals in one game in U.S. men's national team World Cup history against an opponent that I'm going to say once again, They were one of the best defenses in South America in World Cup qualifying.
Australia arrived for the second game with genuine belief. They'd beaten Turkey, they had physicality all over the pitch, and there was real confidence in their camp that they could frustrate the Americans the way teams had frustrated them before. Sit deep, stay compact, and wait for the press to break down. It didn't work for a single minute.
Australia, I'm thinking, you know what? This is going to be a very difficult game because Australia are very much defensive. So they need to break them down. They're going to play 5 at the back. Pulisic is not playing. So this is another thing to bear in mind. Bro, first half, 2 goals.
At one point in the first half, Australia had 17% possession, not because the USA was hoarding the ball for the sake of it, but because every time Australia tried to build, the press arrived before they could breathe.
Our pressure when we don't have the football is the best in the tournament. I don't see another team as athletic as us, as quick as us, and be able to press the ball for as long period of time as we're able to do that. So that's something we have special. If we can build on that, who knows?
The first goal is the clearest example of this. Folarin Balogun runs down the left channel, keeps going past one defender, and another forces chaos in the box, and an Australian defender puts it into his own net. That's not luck, that's what sustained pressure does to a defense. It creates moments of panic, and panic defenders make mistakes. Now, the goal that really showed what Pochettino has built is the second one, and it starts with Sergiño Dest.
We have to talk about Dest. He was an absolute live wire all game. There was a couple of moments he could have caused big penalties against Australia. Sets up the second goal, of course. Dest is absolutely unbelievable.
Dest has always had the technical ability to destroy defenders in one-on-one situations. What he's never had before is the freedom to actually do it consistently at international levels. Previous setups asked him to track back, maintain defensive shape, and be disciplined. Pochettino looked at Dest and decided the best version of him is the one going forward, creating chaos with a defensively reliable player behind him covering the space.
But he's a player that will be in the shot window in a big way. He's athletic, he's pacey, he's powerful, and he's playing out of position. He's doing very, very well. He's so attacking. He could have scored a couple of goals in his own right.
So that's what he got. Every time Dest received the ball from Australia, you could see the defenders take a half step back. They didn't want to commit because they knew he'd go past them. The hesitation is exactly the kind of instability elite teams create in each other. Dest drove at the defense, the shot came in, and Freeman was there on the rebound. The other piece that Australia never solved was McKennie drifting wide right. On paper, McKennie is a central midfielder. Against Australia, he was floating out to the right channel, holding width, cutting passing lanes, and then picking his moments to connect passes into the middle or across the box. Australia prepared for one version of the midfield three and got a completely different one. By the time they adjusted, the game was already gone. What's clear after 2 games is that Pochettino hasn't just told these players to work harder, he's told them exactly where to be, when to press, when to go vertical, and when to hold.
I think this America side are going to be very difficult to play against. They're balanced, they've got a great setup, especially in that midfield. The likes of Tillman, Adams, McKennie is a brilliant, workman-like, athletic, powerful midfield. And I think Pochettino has to get a lot of plaudits for what he's developed with the US men's national team.
The structure is visible, but the goals are only half the story, because the part that nobody is talking about enough is what happened defensively. For years, the defensive side of this program was where tournaments went to die. It wasn't one catastrophic failure, it was a pattern. Leads that held for 60 minutes and then vanished in 5. Transition moments where a single loose pass turned into a chance, and the chance turned into a goal, and suddenly a win became a draw. The 2022 squad in Qatar had the same issue. You'd watch them go forward with real purpose, and then concede something avoidable on the other end. And the progress felt hollow, because the foundation underneath kept cracking. Against Australia, none of that happened. Not once. Chris Richards was commanding in the air, reading danger early enough to cut it out before it developed. Ream, at 38 years old, and the oldest first American to play at a World Cup, was exactly what you need from a centre-back partner. Calm in possession, decisive when the pressure arrived, never rattled by the physical challenge Australia tried to bring in the second half. But the player who separated himself from everyone else on that backline, and honestly from most players in the tournament so far, was Alexander Freeman. Freeman's numbers from the Australia game are the kind of stat line that makes you look twice. 5 clearances, 4 aerial duels won, 4 tackles, 2 interceptions, 2 successful dribbles, 1 goal. That's a complete performance from a 21-year-old who plays his club football at Villarreal. And it's not just the volume of those numbers, it's the range of them. He was winning headers against forwards, tracking runners in behind, coming out with the ball under pressure, and then showing up in the attacking box to convert a rebound.
Shortly after, got a goal, free kick from far, deflected, goalkeeper's on the ground, Freeman narrowly onside to head it into an open goal.
There's no single role you can put that performance in. He did everything. What makes Freeman's showing matter beyond one game is what it signals about how Pochettino has structured the right side of this team. Dest gets the freedom to push forward because Freeman behind him is reliable enough to cover the space. That's not an accident. Pochettino identified what Dest needed to be dangerous and built the defensive layer underneath it, so the risk stays manageable. The attacking freedom and the defensive security are connected. One enables the other. Australia did push in the second half. Substitutes came on. Urgency increased.
There in the second half, I have to be honest, I think Australia were the better team. Although Australia probably just didn't have the quality today to really punish the US, they looked like the side more likely to score.
And there were moments where the US had to defend their box properly, rather than just pressing their way through problems. They held. No panic in the shape, no desperate clearances that gave the ball straight back, no breakdowns in communication between the back line and the midfield sitting in front of them. The clean sheet mattered more than the 2 goals in one specific sense. Great tournament teams aren't just judged by how many they score, they're judged by how hard they are to break down. After Australia, the answer to that question is clear. Pochettino hasn't just fixed the attack, he's built a team that controls games from the back 4 all the way up to the press. That's a completely different program from every previous version of the USMNT.
The USA have a phenomenal squad, mate. Strength and depth off the bench. Pochettino's got them playing some really exciting football. And they're a physical team, mate.
2 wins from 2 games. First time the USMNT has done that since 1930.
Of course. I mean, for us to win back-to-back games for the first time in a World Cup since 1930 is a really big deal.
But the results aren't even the most striking thing. It's that neutral observers watching these games no longer see a hopeful underdog trying to survive. They see a team with a real tactical identity, real defensive structure, and real belief that the system works. Pochettino's fingerprints are on every piece of it. The pressing triggers, the vertical passing lanes, the positional rotations, the specific freedoms given to specific players. The knockout rounds will test all of it against elite opposition. But after Paraguay and Australia, one thing is undeniable. Pochettino hasn't just improved this team, he's made them unrecognizable.